At least
I
we
was
can
here
hear you.
early. I was ready. I had everything set up, and then everything failed. I'm sorry.
Rhyme or free, it doesn't matter to me. It's my bad poetry. Good day, and welcome to My Bad Poetry, a podcast where we take a deep dive into our poems from youth, yesteryear, or even yesterday, always asking the question, why in the world did I write this? I'm Aaron.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have with us a proofreader, editor, and writer who can work with you on scripts and creative projects. And while it probably would help the two of us to have him on the show for that reason, especially editing our intros, nevertheless, he is here as our guest, the once co-host of a podcast, The Barn, on the show The Shield, Pushcart and Best of the Net nominee, C.M. Crockford. Welcome to My Bad Poetry.
Hey, so happy to be here. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you. Is there anything within this intro that we might have missed that you want to highlight for our dear listeners?
Yeah, so I actually have a book, Bird Songs, which, I can't hold up the cover because this is going to be audio, but it came out with Alien Buddha Press in March this year, and I've done a couple little release parties for it and stuff, and if you like poems about autism and Yukio Mishima and the climate crisis, this is the book for you.
I love it.
You know, all the normal things. All rolled into one.
The normies are going to
love it.
I will say, I wish we could feature the cover because it's a beautiful cover.
Oh, yeah. Val Bernardino did it. She did a great job.
Okay, nice. And then I was reading its collections of poems from like 2020 through 2023.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, yeah. Nice. So yeah, nothing big happened during those years.
No. Nothing happened. Everything has been fine ever since.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that. I haven't gotten it yet, but this should be a great read. Okay, well, Dave, you should bring us into the realm of bad poetry with whatever you have hastily written for us this week.
Okay. This is a poem I am calling 5:38 a.m. There once was a chicken with eggs to lay. The farmer told her that he would not pay. The chicken found a witch who made the quick switch. Now all the farmer can say is nay.
Nice.
I was up with my son this morning, and he said, "Don't you have to write a poem?" And I said, "Yeah. What should it be about? A farmer that gets turned into a horse."
I love it. That was clever.
Lots of limericks.
I need a shtick because otherwise I can do nothing. I am trash at writing.
I love how it is your 5-year-old son who reminds you that you're the one who needs to write a poem for the show.
Do. Get it done.
He's responsible.
That's amazing. Well, that was a great kind of segue into our bad poems.
Yeah.
Conor, you didn't give us any limericks, I don't see.
I'm sorry to disappoint. And the funny thing was, when I was in high school, I wrote a lot of limericks because I just thought, well, this is the bee's knees. Like, easy to write, and you can write naughty ones. Oh.
Yeah.
Look at what a clever boy I am.
Yeah.
God.
So what you have given for us today, we're looking at 3 here. I'm curious, without giving us any context, because we like to hear these raw, unfiltered bad poems, and then we get into the context. But I'm curious, is there one that you would like to, what, Dave?
Sorry, I was reading ahead to the first one, and you were saying raw, unfiltered, right as I read the word menstrual blood.
Well, I was gonna say if there's any poem you want us to start with, but I think Dave has picked it.
Sorry.
So Conor, how about reading for us Stains.
Oh god. All right. Yeah, this is gonna be a trip down fun memory lane. Okay. All right. Stains. There's a stain in my sheets from menstrual blood left by a woman who stayed the night. I've tried to wash it out, yet I find it beautiful. It is an aberration that's emerged from viscera, a sharp disruption of these contained, placid colors. Let it endure my efforts then, a reminder of ancient cycles that have outlived empires, a link to endless gore, endless life. It has crept into my bed, my sleep. Here it stays, that soft impression of carnality, the faint remains of the body, the intimation of our flesh.
Okay, then.
That is a visceral.
Yeah, there's. Um, uh,
Solid point, Aaron.
Yes, before even giving first impressions, I feel like I need context. This
I feel like I gave the context in the poem, which
that's
is
fair.
correct.
why this poem kind of is, I read it again and I'm like, this is so annoying. I hate you, 20. I'm not going to give the name away, the age away, but I hate you, this age me.
Oh boy. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, you're right. You do give the context right away. There's very little mystery as to what this poem is about. I will say, of the direction it takes, while it comes off pretentious, is that the right word? Yeah.
Whoa. I don't know about that's a hard word to throw around here for this poem.
I do like some of the imagery and some of the points. I mean, like the ancient cycles that have outlived empires. That's a pretty cool way of looking at the menstrual cycle and the female body and the ways that it hosts life and also endless gore, endless life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But woof.
I think it's really interesting because when we're dealing with like bad poetry, it's often peak toxic masculinity about like I'm a man and I deserve whatever. But this actually takes a more hopeful view in just a very different direction.
Yeah, I can't decide if this is extremely toxic masculinity or if it's like pretty good feminism. I mean, maybe like
Right.
maybe three white guys are not we're not going to come down with the right take on this poem, but I think we all agree something's not right.
Maybe you're not the poem to talk about this, Sean.
Yes. Maybe you are the wrong poet for
Wrong
this
poet.
poem.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So without giving away the age, because you said you're furious at your previous self and probably a bit embarrassed as well. Where were you in your mindset when you were writing this? Were you very confident as a poet? Were you experimenting with styles? What were you working on at this time?
Yeah, so this came from an interesting time in my life where I was in a band, and it was a very like melodramatic, kind of glammy post-punk band.
Okay.
So I think my obsession with that and with the romantics and with like the decadent writers really affected a lot of my work. Sometimes not for the better, definitely, obviously. No shit. But like I think I was dealing with a lot of that, like this sense of like everything has to be grandiose and big in my writing is kind of a reaction to a lot of literary fiction, which was, annoyingly pedantic sometimes, right? Like the stuff my dad loved. And now I see more of the value in that. And I like the quiet and small in writing. And I think this did come from a period where I'm obsessed with like, I still am obsessed with like renegades and, dark writers and violent writers and nihilist writers and a lot of weirdos and people who are on the fringes of the mainstream. And I like those people still, but I don't feel as much of the need to imitate them, I think. I think I'm clearly like suffering my influences in these early poems.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. I was going to make a quick joke because you said this comes from a period in my life. And I was going to say, well,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow, pun not intended. Whoops. Period for sure. It was what's the line from Walk Hard? Oh, this is a dark period.
Oh, man.
I haven't thought about that movie in a while.
Oh, I love that movie. And yeah, it kind of works
It's a
here.
good one.
You know,
Yeah.
It
this
does.
is the dark period.
Yeah. I do love how you say like you were trying to imitate those like romantics and like yeah, you're pulling out all this aberration of and viscera. I mean, and
Spelled aberration.
criminality and like it's just
Well, something I immediately noticed is that I don't have any reds or scarlets or anything in here. Like, there's no color,
that's true. You acknowledge placid colors.
which is weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's something I really dropped the ball on with this poem. Like, oh, you couldn't have done that. So I bet,
Yeah.
no.
It is interesting though that like, blood is such a common theme in poetry and in just life in general. And like you always hear about like hot blood or like I don't know, it draws really
Warm
strong
blood.
emotions,
Yeah.
but here to describe it as placid, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I have a very important question. Dawn or Tide or how do you clean stains like this?
Swear to God, I used bleach and it didn't come out.
Okay.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's what happened with this.
I've heard hydrogen peroxide is pretty good for blood
I
stains.
just left it too long for some reason. It was a squalid Alston apartment. If you've ever been to Boston, they literally call it like Alston Rat City.
Oh,
Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah.
Rat City.
Yeah, it's so many students there, so the housing was always really bad and cheap and poorly constructed.
Oh man. Well, so it's very clear why you gave us this poem.
What?
I don't think there's any debate. This is a bad poem. I'm wondering if there's anything that when you were reading this back or when you found this, you're like, oh, I need to include this poem because like was there something that you were like, this is a style tended to work into my old poems that I've learned is not it was my crutch or something. You did acknowledge kind of imitating your the favorite artists or the artists that you do like, but is there something beyond that just makes you cringe from this poem?
Oh, all of it. I think some of the woke, the faux wokeness is a bit much. I'm really like tamping that down, or like I'm more interested in going after hypocrisy or self-righteousness in my writing. So that's something I am noticing here. The lack of imagery. That's something I definitely think about more, as I get older as a poet and want to reconfigure my voice. It's actually great to be on this podcast because I was kind of in the middle of like one of those writer moments of crisis of like, what am I doing? What's my voice?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So it's actually good to go back and be like, oh, you did improve a lot. Okay. This could be worse.
Yeah.
So the lack of imagery though here, and I think something Jonathan Coven, who's another Philly poet, said when he was looking at one of my poems was like, what are you doing that's different from anyone else in your writing? You always have to consider that. And this is an example of like, you're not really saying anything new, or like this is not going away from anything. You're still stuck with all these decadent romantic influences in your head.
Sure.
But you're not even doing all the right imagery. You're performing it.
Yeah, it's more just impressions of like grandiose past and present. There's it's not grounded anywhere.
No.
Aside from the stain.
The stain itself.
The stain itself. Okay, so you've set the stage here with stains, and I see that your next one, upon seeing a photo, it evokes Charles Bukowski, who is one of those poets who like really pushes the envelope, and I imagine that he was or still is one of your idols.
Not really. It's definitely a thing too. Actually, of I liked his novels more than his poetry because a lot of his books, and this is something that I don't think gets brought up enough. I'm like, these are good books about working and how American work is just a hellhole a lot of the time.
Ah,
However, I know there is like a hardcore anti-Bukowski core in literature. Like the backlash has been there for like 10 years now.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think I was in the last period when I wrote this of the time where you could really like Bukowski and no one would make fun of you. Yes.
Ah.
Maybe the last 10 years it's not a thing anymore, I think.
Well, it's so funny because even on this show, we've had guests like almost back to back weeks evoke his name from very different perspectives.
Yeah.
Some who have loved his work and try and aspire to write like him, and others who are like, I am totally anti Bukowski and I write kind of opposite of his style. And so seeing his name evoked within the title of this, I'm very intrigued as to where this is going to go.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, how about you give us a reading of Upon Seeing a Photograph of Charles Bukowski?
Old man, look at you. Nose in a sculpted blackened husk, carved out of an ugly memory that made lasting scars, marking your cheeks with beautiful misery, staining your soul. Look at you, with protruding ears, that sprout of long, lazy hairs, combed and back, synonymous with the shadows looming round your lips. But oh, what eyes! Eyes of hatred and drunk rage, eyes of decay and distemper, eyes that beat women to death, undress their legs, worshipped, loved, and despised them, all at the same time. Eyes that contain pools of wounded sin and thumped poetry, spotted with profundity and profanity, ugliness and beauty, all tied into the twisted knots of a great soul. Blah. I'm gonna give a blah. Has anyone done this before on the podcast?
A blah, an
Yeah,
immediate, yeah.
hilarious.
We've had some folks cringe. I think that you might be the first to evoke a straight up blah.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
I think it's warranted.
Can I say when I wrote this?
Yes, please do.
I wrote this when I was like 21, 22, I want to say.
Okay.
So it feels like the last time like that was appropriate for that. It's crazy because after this I really did just abandon a lot of realistic fiction and like really didn't read literary fiction for a while. And so it's just funny to read this and remember that period when I'm trying to write like, oh, I drink whiskey, you know, I'm writer, the grizzled writer guy. You know, and it's like I can do like one drink of whiskey, and then I go, bah.
Something I've recently seen is there's the song I'd rather take my whiskey neat, my coffee black, and I think it's very funny because of how many people are like, oh yeah, I'll do a whiskey neat. Oh, this is garbage. I hate this. I don't want to like. Give me a fruity drink with lots of pineapple and stuff. Right?
Why wouldn't you want to start with a margarita? It's amazing.
Yeah. What I'm struggling to understand about this poem, and I love how you said it's about that last acceptable time within both like your age and maybe the timeline of our collective understanding of Charles Bukowski and his work. Is this an ode?
Yeah. I think it was an ode, and I wrote it for an English class where it was like we had to look at a photograph and write about it. One of those kind of prompts. So yeah, I think I was just writing one, and then I think I read Bluebird actually, which I do think is a genuinely very good poem for the class, and I think that was the whole idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite line of this, and it's just because it immediately drew to mind a different phrase, but eyes that contain pools of wounded sin. All I could think of was like, I contain multitudes.
Yeah. Which I think I was reading at the time, and then that became like this goal later where I ended up reading all of Leaves of Grass. And that was actually like a good poetic deed where I'm like, I don't regret reading all of this guy. Like that was
Sure.
Like Whitman is great, you know, in a similarly very problematic guy.
True.
Who is
True.
Also an extraordinary writer. Although, again, it's like it's weird for me where now I associate Bukowski so much with being 19 and 20 that like I
Mm.
haven't gone back. It's like certain punk bands for me where I'm like I can't do that again. Obviously,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it kind of holds like this odd, almost guilty nostalgia.
yep, yep, yeah. So when I look at this poem, though, I just see a lot of things I would cut, or like there's so many lines I would cut, and like, or just change completely, or like I don't know if I'd write this again. Obviously, would I bother? I don't know. Probably not. This blatant act of hero worship, maybe not.
Yeah. There are good turns though. Like there are some beautiful lines. Like I like the spotted with profundity and profanity.
Hmm.
I like that. That's a nice line, but also, you know, it's about a dude who writes about erections and stuff. So,
Yeah.
eh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wounded sin is bad. I think I would get rid of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
that
Mm-hmm.
there are just lines here though, so they're try hard. You know.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the kids in this class liked this poem. It just makes me think of The Simpsons, where she's like, "The children are right to laugh at you, Ralph."
Oh yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Like, no, the children are right here.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Yeah, fuck
this this needs editing.
so much. Of it.
Yeah. All of these repeated eyes of lines.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then I guess it's two eyes of and then two eyes that. And yeah, the beat women to death was very jarring, and
yep.
yet you come back to the all tied in the twisted knots of a great soul, and it yeah, yeah, it
You
is
can,
it is weird kind of hero worship, like you said. Yeah.
yeah, you can tell too. I'm reading so much 19th century poetry, and it's just really showing. Like it's aging my work by accident in a
Yeah.
really weird way. And like, I'm grateful for that kind of weird education I got growing up around like, New England poets, a lot of Hawthorne and Poe and all
I'm
these
sure.
random guys. But obviously it's like you need to read some 21st century things now. Like
I
please.
no.
yeah.
No poetry was written after like 1905, I
Oh,
believe.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, that's when poetry ended, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Poetry is
He
dead. I
says
don't know
to a
if you.
poet.
Yeah. I don't. Oh, I had never thought of where you are raised as being. Oh, this is the dumbest thing I've ever said.
You
Where
grew
you are
up
And
raised
that's
is.
a high bar.
you
Yes.
grew up is influential on you? What?
Yeah. Right. Context matters. But I
No.
suppose that you said the East Coast, you're embedded in those like transcendentalist writers
Like New
and
England, yeah, like deep New
yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, like
Big influence on me.
where I grew up in Sydney, Ohio, all of the elementary schools, well, I mean, Sydney itself named after the poet,
Mm.
but all of the elementary schools were named after poets. So I went to Emerson.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, even that was a sense of like locking us into a certain time period of
Yeah.
these are the glorified poets. These are the ones that we should emulate.
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly, this is the work of a confused young man. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
That is an interesting question though, like looking at what is our bigotry going to be when we
Oh,
are
yeah.
older, and like what will younger generations look back and go, "Oh yeah, he loved Bukowski," or he was a Harry Potter fan, or you know.
Yeah.
He wrote about menstrual cycles and try to make it this faux woke work. Yeah.
No.
I love that term faux woke that you brought up.
I felt like it was right.
It's very convicting, actually. That's a
Yeah.
great. I'm gonna have to think more on that. Oh boy. Okay, you give us one more here.
Okay.
Ooh.
It is untitled.
Yeah, I didn't. So it's a scrap. I realized, like, I was looking through all my drafts and old scraps.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a scrap. It was probably going to be a lyric at one point, and I think I just made it a poem.
Ooh,
Nice.
even better. Yeah.
So yeah, this was supposed to be, I think, for my band Tin Flowers. If I had to guess. All right. Untitled. Obey my body, my haunted call. Rippling surfaces contain it all. All that glitters is in the gutter, and I want to make hearts stutter. I am beyond the living dead, the silent ones who mouth their dread. I will erupt amid my dreams. Come and see what I mean. Descend with me to the darkened world. No rules in place for the boys or girls. Rock and roll is king and queen. Want to see? It's all just what it seems. Be here for my passion play. I'll need your gaze. Lust and cry for my siren song. Now you're where you belong.
I can totally imagine windows down, rolling down the streets, just blasting this.
Now, you said
Thank you.
you said Tin Flowers was a post-punk.
Yeah, like a glammy kind of like indie rock band, but like with very danceable rhythms.
Okay,
Like
okay,
Joy Division mixed with some other stuff, like kind of dancey.
okay.
Yeah.
These lyrics feel more to me like goth rock.
It was gothy too, though. I mean, there was a
Okay.
goth vibe we got to pretty easily.
Okay.
So we were into The Cure too, and Bowie, and
Sure.
Star and the Replacements, and you know,
Sure.
it all kind of blended together a little.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure I must have written this either like when I was bored at work or during rehearsal, like just kind of scrawling it down pretty quickly.
No.
Oh boy. Yeah, it does come off as sing-songy with the rhyme scheme, and what does it even mean?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I think I understand some of it. It's like, you know, like going to the rock world. I don't know. It's kind of the same universe as Streets of Fire, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
I haven't, no.
Yeah, it's like a rock. It's subtitled A Rock and Roll Fable. It's a crazy movie.
Okay, okay.
Walter Hill directed it, but like you know, kind of this whole like Jim Steinman hyper emotional kind of world of rock and rollers and girls, and you know, I was very into glam rock and that kind of like underground world of going into a counterculture. So part of this is also like want to see it's all just what it seems. There was supposed to be something else that I must have scrawled out. I don't even know what I was writing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, this feels unfinished.
Oh yeah.
And not in the way in like a poem that needs multiple drafts. This feels like you scrolled half a song, or maybe not even half a song. We don't have a bridge or a chorus as far as I could tell, or anything like that. And maybe that wasn't your style, but even the end doesn't have like any punctuation or sense of like. It feels like you have a lot more to write here.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, that this needs real clarification, and like some of it's just funny because of that. I will erupt in my dreams. It's so funny. Why am I showing this to anyone? Why am I? Oh no.
So, can I just say,
Yeah.
the sense of descend with me into the darkened world. All I could think of is this feels to me like a goth rock Willy Wonka. Like, come with me,
Come
and you'll
with me.
yeah, and you'll be in a darkened world with no rules.
Yeah, this does sound like a Willy. Okay, I can hear the Willy Wonka vibes now. Really,
Yeah, because it's all this invitation and like, if you want to see my passion play.
I think it's just really Hades and Persephone was what I was thinking about.
There you go.
Okay.
So, you know, the Greek myths are always in my head, but like, obviously, the structure is barely there. Like, there should be like a couplet at the end, really, but like, I don't know. This is just such a mess. It's hilarious. My haunted call is also really funny. Like, what? How can a call be
Yeah.
haunted? How is that possible?
But that's exactly like it really does remind me of so much music that is like I feel it so deep. I don't know what it means.
Right?
I have no clue, but I feel it.
Yeah.
So in your band, were you did you play an instrument? Were you the lead singer? What'd you do?
Lead singer, yeah. So I was writing the
Okay.
lyrics. I kind of put myself in charge of that. I'm like, I'm writing the lyrics here.
Nice.
So yeah, that was basically my job. And we wrote, you know, probably 10 or 15 songs total, but never, you know, got it together enough for like to actually release an EP or anything.
Sure.
No.
But you know, it was fun as hell. And
Oh
like
yeah.
it's fun to look back on some of this writing and what came out of a very ecstatic, passionate attitude. Listening to a lot of Suede, if you ever listen to them, like the Britpop band and Pulp and Oasis.
Oh,
I've heard Pulp and Oasis. I haven't heard
Mhm.
Suede.
Suede's great. It
Okay.
was called the London Suede in America. It was like a whole
Huh.
called Suede.
hmm.
Oh boy. Okay. Also, all that glitters is in the gutter. I mean, you just throwing shade at all that glitters is not gold.
I think it was meant to be like basically as above, so below, right?
Mm.
Like
Oh.
kind of like living in the trash stratum kind of thinking. To another man's trash is another man's treasure kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
very, very Blakey thinking too. I'm really into William Blake. Still am,
Yes.
So
Okay. Okay. You could pull so every one of these lines. None of them make sense out of context, and in context, it barely
No.
makes sense. Other than like this
Yeah.
invitation into the glam rock world of post punk, but beyond the Living Dead, are you like an ultra vampire? What are you?
I thought, yeah, I'm trying to think about that. Where I'm like, is that just me coming up with a horror title, like out of a pocket? You
Yeah.
know, I guess so. Crazy.
Okay. Without because you didn't want to divulge when Stains was within your
Stains, I was like 23, 24.
okay. Okay.
But I'm like that's too late to write that kind of poem. I should have never written. It's too late. You're not
I,
allowed.
I
Would you
would
say
say that that's within the reasonable area of like deconstructing some of that.
yeah.
Fair enough.
But would you say that this is co-current?
I wrote this when I was like 22, 23.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
about the same time
about
as
the same time.
Stains.
Yeah, like
Okay.
similar like decadent romantic aspirations,
No.
not always getting it totally together. So yeah, like I think again, it's the suffering your influences thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're evoking a passion play here,
Mhm.
are you trying for an offhanded like Christian reference? I mean, passion plays are the stages of the cross typically with
Yeah. Uh, good question. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to make a comparison to shows and passion plays, which is not necessarily good. Looking at it like, oh, passion plays were actually kind of like anti-Semitic bait.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, like what am I thinking as a writer here in that moment? I think I need something else. This passion play probably just sounded good. It's a good phrase,
It is
unfortunately.
a good
Yeah.
phrase. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Siren song too, though. But again, it's that repetition of alliteration where
Yeah.
this is something else too, where I've noticed this being a crutch, and now I
Yeah.
try to be much smarter about it and how I do it. So
I would never use alliteration as a crutch.
yeah, no,
That's
no one
all
has
Aaron
ever done.
ever does.
Yeah,
No, that is by far my biggest crutch. I love alliteration.
me too.
Well, if it helps, I don't have a crutch in my writing because to have a
Oh,
crutch, you have to write enough and have an idea of what would work as a crutch. So you guys are miles ahead of me.
Your crutch, Dave, is the limerick.
No, that's not a crutch. That's my genius.
That's your genius. Okay.
Yeah.
it's
Oh
your
wow.
truest talent.
My genius, my neurodivergency, whatever you want to call it.
Hey,
Um, Connor, I am interested in when you're writing lyrics or poems. You've given us a couple. Did the last one have? No, the last one didn't have rhymes. This one has some rhymes,
yeah,
but not all the way. I mean, dreams and mean or near rhymes, world and girls. Would the idea be that? And I guess in some songs you can kind of get away with those near rhymes.
Mhm.
Um, if you were to convert this into like just a words on the page poem, would you ditch the rhyme scheme or would you try to conform the whole thing to a rhyme or leave it as this kind of scattershot?
I might leave it as scattershot, but I wouldn't. I definitely like the idea of keeping to a rhyme. Um, I've been fooling around with that more lately, so
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I think I'd try to convert it to a rhyme scheme actually, or take it in the back. I don't know. I don't like this poem.
No.
Ron, what is want to see? It's all just what it seems. That's actually, now that you say it, it does sound like a lyric where it's kind
Yeah.
of vague and it's almost like I could have been a sculptor, but then again, no.
Yes.
One of my favorite lyrics of all time because it does sound like how people talk, but no one talks like that at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Oh. Yeah, actually, this is very much Elton John because you're like, that could have been a sculptor, but then again, no, or a man in what is it, in a wandering show? I mean, like
Yeah.
you're doing that same thing. It's like, want to see? It's all I want to see. Oh, come and see my play.
Yeah. I'll need your gaze.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah.
need your gaze.
I'll need your gaze. That's the interesting thing, is that it's like future tense. It's like, I will in the future need your gaze. You should come to my play.
Said every feeder major.
Oh, doing the podcasting thing, being in high school theater, it's so hard to find that line where it's like you want to invite friends and family to be a part of your art or what you're doing, and yet it can come off very cringy.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
It's like, well, I do have a podcast if you want to listen. I mean,
You got free time.
yeah, yeah. So how long did you do your podcast?
Oh, let's see, about 2 years. So we actually covered all of the episodes.
Wow.
And like brought people on we knew who also loved the show. We brought on this internet commenter named Zodiac MFer.
Okay.
And he had his takes, and we had Jason Pinter come on. He was a crime writer.
Cool, nice.
Zoe Z, also a crime writer and an online commenter I know. Tristan Ankerviz. So, it just kind of depended. There was another podcast about the Shield too, but they actually brought on the actors and stuff.
Sure.
And we were like the DIY one, who
Yeah.
were just doing the comments, just the analysis.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And is it still out there in the world? If people,
I need to re-upload the episodes again, but it is available if you're looking for like the first episode at least.
Sure.
But I definitely need to get back on re-uploading everything and getting it available to the public.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, if people find The Shield on FX.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's speak about your most recent project, The Bird Song.
Yes.
You talked about it at the beginning of the show, the collections over the last 3 years or so. Where is it available?
Yeah. So it's available via Amazon, so you can buy a copy there. You can also buy it from me from my website, cmcrockford.net. And I have a couple signed copies left if you're looking for those.
Nice.
I'll actually be selling them in the park tomorrow, but that's more of a Philadelphia local.
Yeah.
Trying to make some extra swag.
Nice.
But yeah, you can check out Bird Songs. It's about 80 pages, either on Amazon or through my website, and buy directly from me and get a local writer a couple bucks.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Now, are you doing any? This will drop after Saturday, but any readings or any? Do you do public readings or anything like that? Or?
I do, yeah. So I did a reading a couple months ago for House Poet, which is a really great local reading series.
Cool.
And that's about it so far. I have something preemptively coming up, or like it should be coming up in Allentown in October.
Nice.
So those are the gigs I have so far. I'll also be in San Francisco in August, so I'm hoping to hit up an open mic there.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then you also do editing. Is there any limits to your editing ability, or do you could anyone hire you for anything?
Absolutely no limits to my abilities. I am a god and infinite capabilities. I know all the manuals. I'm really great with literary fiction, romantic fiction, horror. I recently covered a horror novel and had a great time doing that. So if you need help with your project, I'm here for you.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. And we will not take these unedited scraps. We will not hold these against you. These bad poems that you have offered us today. Before we let you go, we'll give you a chance to redeem yourself.
Yeah.
Because we here at My Bad Poetry, we end each week with the words of a true poet So, would you be willing to read for us another one of your poems that you have edited that is out there that you are proud of?
Yes. So this is the one that's been nominated for the push cart, and I'm really proud of this. It's in my book, so if you like this poem, go check it out. And it's called Spam Love Poem. Good afternoon, CM Crockford. I'm from Phoenix also. Here the insects make no noise, though something does sing along with the night. Are you in my Phoenix, where the roads shiver with the cold? Do you get lonely, even when hearing the songs of the dark? Me too, me too. I wish I was between your legs. Why don't you answer my emails, reply to the texts? Will you not come to my dying patchwork house? Will you not come, see the nettle leaves now spreading along my ceiling cracks? Please, are you here? I'm willing to offer 20% for your time. Hurry while it lasts.
That's terrifying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I love about that is the way it follows the pattern of a spam email,
Mhm.
and yet it's still very poetic.
I based it on some real emails I got.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
And then I just started going, and I wrote it in like 20 minutes.
That's amazing. So, did you do some erasure type work, or was it more like you just kind of got the rhythm of these spam emails, and then we're like, I'm gonna write one going from there?
Yeah, I wrote in the rhythm of the emails. I kept getting them, and I started noticing the weird disjunction and the discordance of the sentence structures, right? And
Yeah.
I just started writing a poem in that manner. And I think I literally I've typed maybe 3 drafts of it total, and every time I'm like kind of like, this is good. Like it's kind of done. Like, I don't know, one of my friends was like, that's the best poem you've ever written. And I'm like, that's what I'm worried about. We'll see. Maybe I'll have some more in me, you know?
No, I love it. I love that because you're pointing out how spam emails, because they're typically written by bots or
Mhm.
just their translations into English, and it is choppy and it's sporadic and it's
Yeah.
these short sentences, and it's usually like, "Hey, are you here too?" or like, I'm in the
Also,
neighborhood." Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I liked the idea too of like a spam love poem that is sincere. Like there is something
Yeah.
creepy and eerie about the sincerity that like, I was like, what if this bot really cared? What if this is the only way to reach me? And that was kind of the idea for the poem too.
Well, those are the best
Yeah.
kind of spam because it
Yeah.
does evoke that, like, could this actually be genuine?
It's so uncanny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
Yeah. Well, Connor, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. This has been such a good time,
Oh, good.
even though I'm so embarrassed by the poems.
Yeah. This has been My Bad Poetry.
No, go write some of your own bad poetry.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Rhyme free doesn't matter to me.